We've been looking at a lot of worksheets, and it's nice to see it on the screen, but very often we'd like to print them out. Let's start from the very beginning of printing, and let's see different possibilities that can come up that we should be aware of. First of all, just to make a print of our screen, of our worksheet, very simply we can go to the top of our screen and we would go to print, and we notice we have a choice which says quick print. This will send the workbook directly to the default printer without making any changes. Now, the only thing about this is that we are not sure when it prints out how it's going to look, whether everything will be on one page or maybe 2 pages, but it will print everything else out. Since we will probably be doing a lot of printing, we should be aware of a shortcut. In order to print out, all we need to do is hold down the Control plus the letter P, and up comes our box which says what printer we're dealing with, and it says print range all of it, and I will then say OK, and it will then print it out. Let's say we're not going to be so daring and we would like to preview how the worksheet would look. So in that case, we again would go up to our Office button, go to Print, and go to Print Preview. And as you can see, the whole spreadsheet is not being shown, and this is probably how we do not want it to be printed out. If we press the Escape key and go back, we see exactly what's going on. We have a vertical dotted line. This indicates where the print will be cut off on the first page. When I say cut off, it really just means that we'll have 2 pages printed out. Maybe it'll be fine that way, but typically we'd like it all to be on 1 page. One of the options to get everything on the sheet, at least a possibility, is to change the orientation. So if I go up to the top of the screen by Page Layout, click on that, one of the choices says Orientation. If I click on that and change it from Portrait, which it is now in, to Landscape, I will now see that there is a change, and I am getting more on the page, but I'm still losing out on some of the material that I have there. Well, there are different possibilities to correct this. One of them is to possibly resize some of the cells. So for example, I may want to see if I can make a cell smaller, and sure enough, by double-clicking on some possible cells, I do see that I will now be able to get everything on 1 page. The dotted lines now fall outside of the print location. Another possibility which we could consider, if we wish, is to change the font size. So if I select the whole screen, and now I can right-click and go to Format Cells and change my font to something that might fit in even better. I can try 10, and if that doesn't make any difference, we can try another number. Let's do that just to indicate the big change. Let's right-click and let's go to Format Cells, and let's put in 8. Now 8 may be too small, but let's take a look at it and let's see what happens. Possibly it would work for us, but if it does not, we can try other possibilities as well. We may not even want to print the whole spreadsheet. Maybe all we do want to print is a certain section. So for example, let's say I just want to print columns A, B, C, and D. So if I highlight A, B, C, and D, and then go to my Office button and choose Print, and choose Print on top, I have a choice there which says Selection, and if I choose OK, it will now print out the area that I wish, and I can be pretty confident that it will all be on one page. Another way to guarantee that everything fits on one sheet is by doing the following. We can go to page layout and then go down to page setup with the arrow, and one of the choices there says fit to page. If I would click on fit to page, everything on my spreadsheet would fit to one page. The only possible problem would be that the print might be very, very tiny and I would not be able to read that. At times we would like to display and print the formulas version of the worksheet, and sometimes we may not have formulas. In this case, for example, if I take my cursor and move it around, it doesn't seem that there is an obvious formula, unlike other spreadsheets that we looked at. So what we're going to do, first of all, to check if there are formulas, hold down the Control key and then press the accent mark key. That's right next to the number 1. If there are formulas, it'll be obvious. In this case, I don't see it, so I will I'll toggle the switch again to go back to the way it was. To see how the formulas are displayed, let's go back to another worksheet we dealt with earlier. This was a budget, and again, let's hold down the Control key and press the accent key, and watch what happens to the numbers where this is current assets. We now have the formulas, and that's what we mean. Now, one of the things also with the maximum and minimum, we see we have the formulas that we implied to get them. One of the things we have to be aware of is that when we go to formulas, the spreadsheet will stretch out further. So when we do that, let's look at that one more time, and we go to the print screen, we try to print this out, it's going to typically be spread over 2 sheets. So we should not assume that we don't have to make adjustments for the formulas when we print it out if we do wish to be on one sheet. When we print out our spreadsheet, we may not want to have it in color initially. We'd want to have it in some sort of draft quality, and we can do that as well. If you go to the top of the screen again, and let's go this time to page layout, and then go to page setup, one of the choices there says sheet. If you click on sheet and go down to print, we see we have the option, number 1, to print the grid lines, to make it just black and white, and we can print out also, which can be advantageous, the row and column headings. So these are different options that you should consider when you print out your spreadsheet. Another technique to squeeze more on the page is to change the margins, and we can do that in the page layout and choosing margins. And right now we see what the margins are, and we can change them by putting in custom margins and basically manipulating it until we reach the position where we have enough of the information on the page that we want. We saw that if a worksheet spans more than one page, we may have a problem. But you can print row and column headings on or labels on every page to ensure that the data is properly labeled. And there's a choice, print titles, and we can click that, and that will do the trick for us. Don't forget to type in the print area, and also don't forget to type in what you want repeated. So for example, where it says rows to repeat at top, in the rows to repeat at top box, type the reference of the rows that contain the column labels.